Aloha. I'd like to first thank you, mahalo nui loa, for all your ike and manawa and sharing with us. My question is mainly for Kumukuhio Vogler, and I'm sure people like Kumusai will talk more about this later today. But my question is about how you mentioned Lithuania becoming a republic in about an hour. I wanted to know what kind of action should be taken by Lahui in order to achieve that sort of thing, to achieve the change.
Yes, thank you. And if anyone wants to add to this, what my research shows in looking at the Baltic states, Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania, and applying that to Hawaii, that there's basically 5 steps that took place in the Baltic states, and that those steps also apply here. And the first step is that people realize that Hawaii is occupied, and people start to use that term, which we keep hearing more and more and more these days. And that all these different issues, whether they're land issues or issues of language, issues of culture, issues of jobs, environmental issues, that these are all tied up with this idea of occupation. And then the second step is that academics become involved, and that's what's beginning to happen too in these discussions about agency and so forth. And we're all using this term occupation, which wasn't really used before. But as academics got involved in Latvia, Lithuania, and Estonia, that started to change cultural groups and political groups so that there were more demonstrations, like some of the demonstrations that took place this summer and so forth. And then the third step that took place was that the political system was completely infiltrated. So you had most of the changes in the Baltic states taking place in the Supreme Soviets of those countries. That would mean that people here from the Democratic Party and the Republican Party, and people in the legislature would start adopting pro-deoccupation platforms. And then the fourth step was going to register those people who could trace their ancestry to before the occupation began. And then the fifth step and the last step is electing a legislature. Oh, that fourth step, it doesn't matter whether you're Hawaiian or whether you're French or whether you're Japanese or whatever it is. It matters whether you're a Hawaiian Kingdom subject. And then the fifth step is electing a legislature from that group. So once that legislature is put together, in the Baltic states it put the USSR in a defensive position, and here it would put the US in the same defensive position. So once that last step is carried out, that would end the occupation right there. But that's what my research shows, but I'm sure that other people could add information about how things are changing as well.
My name is Kapila, and first of all, I have heard from our first speaker that all of a sudden the Royal Hawaiians no longer exist. Now, how did that come to a matter of fact? They're still Royal Hawaiians. And invitation that I have to all of you that are speaking. And second of all, how can they say that there were no Hawaiians in the petition that is never brought out? And third of all, under the Americans' status of signing anything under duress is illegal. So how can they connect between the Oakland and the territory of Hawaii? I don't understand this. That's all I have to say. With you folks' knowledge and understanding of this, you can come to some sort of, make some sort of sense out of all of this.
We'll pass that question to Kuvio first, maybe all 3 questions, and then anyone else who would like to attend.
Oh, aloha. You have a very good point there. There are still people like Komai, and there's other folks who have ancestry that goes back to the kings and queens and so forth. So I'm not saying that there aren't people out there that have that ancestry. The monarchy, as of the 1864 Constitution, was an elected monarchy. And so, like, for instance, King Kalakaua was the stirps. I know it's a weird word, but the word is the stirps, the head of that family line. And once he was elected, he could designate his sister, and then, yes, and then, so in that designation, that as long as it's confirmed by the legislature, then that person would fulfill that post once a person passes or whatever. But what took place is that there was no one after, after Princess Ka'iolani that was designated. So at that point, there would need to be someone elected as the stirps for there to be someone to follow on. I'm not saying anything as far as ancestry. I'm just saying as far as the political system.
As far as the political aspects of it, how and where do they get the right to cut our lineage when it should have been able to have been acknowledged by the Hawaiian royalty?
Oh.
Still yet, you know.
Oh,
Hugh, do you want some rescuing?
yes, yes. Sure,
I
sure.
think if you're talking about matters of law, there's a process already available. Ron, did you have?
Well, I'm sorry. No, I was just going to mention, and I think what I think is interesting is taking it away from that idea of law and looking at it as far as how it's placed in common everyday occurrences. I mean, when you see Sereno Bishop make the argument that Hawaiians aren't Hawaiians, he's identifying who Hawaiians are. We bring that into today when we see things like Dr. John Osorio's being dismissed from the recent court case, the U.S. Supreme Court case, because they say he's not 50% Hawaiian, therefore he's not Hawaiian. So it's that idea of identifying another group, using that identification process to put them into a category instead of people self-identifying. That's what I think is really interesting to today. Yeah.
Here's my knowledge, the way I was raised, and it was written by the royalty that a Hawaiian is considered a person who lives in the way of the ha. No matter what kind of skin and what kind of blood they have, whether they're purple, white, striped, black, orange, if they choose to live in the way of the ha, they are considered a Hawaiian. That is why it is in law in Americanization. If you were here at the time of the throw, you are considered a Hawaiian no matter what your lineage is.
Yes, and by the idea of jus sanguinis, international law, anyone who is a Hawaiian Kingdom subject as of January 16th, 1893, would still continue to be a Hawaiian Kingdom subject. And so that doesn't matter whether they're Hawaiian or French or Japanese, but I agree with you in that sense, yes.
We have